Hey Carl, ask me, what's the most important element of comedy? Okay Carl, what is the most important element in comedy? Timing. Now ask me, what's the most important element of sales? Well, I don't know if timing is the most important element, but timing is a very important element. Welcome to Timing, episode 13 of the Cheeky Sales Coach. So what has timing to do with sales? Well, actually, the bigger component is our word of the day. Today's word of the day is momentum. Momentum is a property of a moving body that the body has by virtue of its mass and velocity. What? So what does that mean? Well, with regard to sales, it means that once you start moving in a certain direction, you need to keep moving in that direction. And with regard to timing, timing is critically important. Here are 6 or 7 reasons you need to pay attention to timing when it comes to sales. Thing 1, you need very clear start and stop dates. So with regard to timing, here's what that means. So when I say have clear start and stop points, I literally mean get out a calendar and say the campaign begins here and it ends there. And know what you will do at every step of that process. So it might be that you mail out your letters on day 1. Okay, cool. So the reality is you've done some work before that, so you should have a calendar before that. But if the official campaign begins on day 1, you send out your letters. You know that they will get there in, let's say they'll start arriving in 3 or 4 business days. So the next week, you have to start calling through those people. And you need to begin going through each of them until you've called everybody on the list at least once. Or it might be your goal to get through to everybody on the list to the extent that you can. Whatever your rules are, process. Make sure that you know exactly what you're going to do. Week 2, week 3, week 4. At some point, the campaign comes to an end and you say, okay, how did we do? Let's begin to measure it and then analyze it, retool it, see if we want to do it again. The big thing is you can't let the campaign go on forever. It must literally come to an end because you need to do another campaign and another campaign. And if you're lucky, you might have some sales and then you have to implement some stuff. Now, the smaller your shop, the more likely it is you can't do both things at once. Thing 2, don't let distractions get in the way. What do we mean about distractions interrupting your timing? Well, imagine that you're cruising along and something happens, a server goes down, or there's something that goes on in your company that just requires you to go do something else. Well, you got to do what you got to do, but do not let that interfere with the timing of your sales. And here's the reason. Remember momentum. Once you begin the process, you have to go through the process. So even if you have a server down, somebody somehow, some way has to contact those prospects. Otherwise, if you leave out week 2 or you stop week 2 and you pick it up in what was going to be week 3, you've got this big gap and you've lost the momentum. So you need to make sure that you've got a plan that if you're going to be running a sales campaign, somebody else is going to deal with all the distractions. Now, one of those distractions is an actual sale. Related to thing 2 is thing 3, success is a distraction. Winning a sale can be a distraction in the middle of a sales campaign. Wait a minute, isn't the point of this to make sales? Well, yes, but remember, you cannot be distracted away from the sales campaign in the middle of a sales campaign. So here's what that means. When you make a sale, you have to have the intestinal fortitude to say, we can start in 3 weeks. We can start in 4 weeks. We can start at the end of the month. We can start March 1st, whatever it might be. The funny thing is, many people are so eager to make a sale, and they're so frothing at the mouth and so scared they're going to lose that sale if they don't jump on it right away, that they end up giving the client the impression that they were always going to be available in the drop of a hat at the last minute to do whatever needs to be done. A, that's never a good idea, but B, that's certainly not the case when you're in the middle of a sale. Do not let a successful sale take the rest of your campaign down. That's a serious consideration. Remember, once you're successful in a campaign, that just means you've finished the sale. Now you have to have enough energy to say, okay, let's tie that up. Let's get a contract signed. Let's even maybe start the process of ordering hardware and software and cloud services, whatever. But most of the implementation has to be delayed until after the campaign, unless you have a separate sales and service delivery organization and you can literally hand off the implementation to somebody else. Don't stop your sales campaign to go implement something and then lose all the rest of that potential momentum. Thing 4, and perhaps the most important rule about timing and sales, is that once you begin the sales discussion, you need to go really fast. I sort of covered this a little bit already, but when I say go, I simply mean once you begin the discussion of an actual sale, you need to dig in your claws and do not let it go until you get a yes or a no. Do not let clients put you off. Oh, my partner is in South America and I have to wait till he gets back so I can blow smoke up your rear. No, that's not the way the world works. Important safety tip. Once you begin a discussion, you must conclude it as quickly as possible. Prospects don't mean to drag you out. That's not what they're trying to do. They're just trying to make a decision. They may be talking to other companies. They may just be confused. They may not have enough information. And here's where a good sales process separates you from an evil sales process. So an evil sales process is one that says, if I just get them to tell me all their objections, I can knock out each of those objections, and then they have to say yes. There's nothing left except the yes. Well, that's just stupid. I don't know whoever thought of that. I don't know why somebody would repeat it. It has been repeated endlessly in sales training since the beginning of time. Don't be stupid. Instead, look at it and say, what does the client need? Do they need information? Do they need a little bit of time? Even if they do need a little extra time, it needs to be very specific. So we will get together next Thursday and make this decision. Because at the end of the day, there must be a yes or a no. And I'm not saying a no is good. I always, again, stupid things salespeople say. But at least a no means you can say, all right, fine, let me put you on my mailing list. I'll get back to you in a year and we'll have a discussion about whether or not you're happy by making the mistake of not hiring us. Quite realistically, just getting a no means you can put that person into a specific part of your future sales funnel, and now you can go talk to all the people who are still maybes. But remember, once you begin the process where somebody says, can you get me a quote? Get them a quote as fast as you can. It has to be accurate, obviously, but it should get to them quickly, not in 5 days, not in 7 days, not in 3 weeks. And then follow up on that quote. Did you get a chance to look at that? Is there any question that you have on that? Do you need more information on anything? Can you afford this? If not, maybe we can adjust the quote to something that you can afford. Let's have that discussion. As long as you're talking, you are moving it closer to a decision. With luck, the decision is yes. And to be honest, the more people talk to you, the more likely it is that the decision is going to be yes. So that's cool, but it means that you need to continually have that conversation. Once you engage with them, don't let it slip. Here's what happens if you let it slip. When you lose that momentum, remember, zoom, momentum is your friend. Once you lose that momentum, what happens is other things come into their life. It may be that they don't buy from you, but they don't buy from anybody else. They just go another year with the same old server. The problem with losing momentum is that they check the box that says they tried your company and they didn't buy. And it's not that they made a decision not to buy, they just didn't buy. Now they may not consider you next time. I don't know why. I mean, it's, to be honest, it is a lot like dating, right? You pass somebody up on a dating app and then you see them again a year later and you think, oh, I said yes last time, but I don't know. They're old news now, right? So don't become old news to your prospects. Thing 5 is an old song you've heard before. Process, process, process. You can't control people, but you can control your process. You can't control your employees. You can't control your salespeople. You certainly can't control prospects or customers. You can't even control the technicians who are going to deliver the products after you've sold it. But if you've got a process, you can control the process. Number 6, most of the time, most of the people don't need what you're selling. So you need to repeat your sales campaign again and again and again. And here's the beautiful part about it. You can repeat the exact same campaign. Let me remind you of a sad, sad truth. Most of the time, most of the people aren't buying what you're selling. That's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. It's just the reality of the world. So why do we care? Well, when it comes to momentum, as soon as somebody says, I'm not interested, what they really mean is, I'm not interested today. It may be that they've already got an IT person. That's great. You have to be patient. They might have that IT person for 5 or 10 or 15 years. So you need to just be there, be visible, be on their radar, be the alternative, so that on the day that their IT person isn't available, stubs his toe, whatever, gets hit by a bus, things happen. One of the things that happened recently, and it didn't happen to very many people, but it happened to some, is that the IT person didn't do a good job of getting people out of their offices and securing their home environment during the pandemic. As a result, they're a little bit dissatisfied. How do you find them? Well, it's really hard to go out and say, hey, did your IT person screw up? Give us a call. That's not going to work. But what you can do is constantly be out there and say, hey, how are things going? Can I help you? Can I help you? We have this opportunity. We have an opening. We are doing free network analysis. Hey, would you like a second opinion? Constantly be out there repeating your campaigns again and again and again. On the question of timing, this is literally a matter of, it may not be the right time most of the time for most of the people. So you have to constantly be repeating, so that when the time is right, you're going to be there offering your services. Finally, number 7, once you win a sale, execute immediately. It's totally okay to say, we can't start until 4 weeks from now. But 4 weeks and 1 minute, you need to go as fast as you can and make sure that the client understands you are fulfilling the promises you made in the sales process. I had a sign made for my office one time that said, our success depends on your execution. Oddly enough, that was not very motivating for my staff. I have no idea why. But execution is absolutely critical to your success. Once you get an order, once that sale is complete and you've scheduled the work for 3 weeks out or whatever, you must then do a perfect handoff to the people who are going to be implementing it. You have to write up the sales description as accurately as possible, create service tickets so that you can hand the work off to technicians because you need them to be as successful as possible. Once that handoff takes place, your company's reputation is in the hands of the technicians who are delivering the service. And I understand that might be you. I totally get that. But you need to deliver on the promises that were made in the sales process. Then and only then will you have completed the first step in having a client that I hope you keep for 15 or 20 years. Hey, if you found any of this interesting or entertaining, please give us a thumbs up, like it, share it, blah, 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 blah. And I will see you next time on the Cheeky Sales Coach. Call to action. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss a thing.